Eli 5. How do they determine the total human population of the world when so many nations are too underdeveloped or corrupt to be able to keep track of all their citizens effectively? Census is the scientific term for taking account of a national asset such as population, number of households, etc. There is no one methodology for carrying out a population census. In most developed countries, all citizens have social security number and births/deaths are recorded. This type of data gives a lot of insight into population statistics, such as growth PR, generation, fertility rate and more. In countries where citizens do not have a social security number and where births and deaths are not tracked, a population census will have to do with proxy data. Proxy data can be other data sources which can serve as a reliable indicator of population information. Such data will not be final and will involve uncertainties. One common proxy is questionnaires which are distributed not to all households but a representative selection. Questions in such a questionnaire will include, how many people live in a household, how many children are born in last year and how many have died. Another typical source of proxy data is aerial and satellite photography. This data can give an insight into changes in settlements on a larger scale. If a city has grown/diminished, can be used to derive amount of people living in a given area and other information. The technology for counting all the people in a country, a census, has been available for millennia. Almost all countries do regular censuses because it's useful for the government to know how many people are living in the country and, roughly, where they all are. This lets them do things like set budgets, anticipate taxes, distribute political power, and make other important policy decisions. Some countries are moving away from censuses towards administrative records, but they will only do that when coverage of those records is good enough to approximate what a census would have found. No census is ever completely accurate. They primarily rely on self-reporting and tend to miss people without a fixed place of residence. Countries with fewer resources will generally accept a lower level of quality. They essentially spend as much as they need to in order to get a measure that's good enough. Combine all those good enough measures together, and the result is probably also good enough given that it's actually not that important for us to know how many people exist in the world. Even so, any number you see for the population of the world is definitely wrong. It's just not that wrong. Could corruption be actively distorting estimates of population? Maybe. As noted above, population counts are important to policy. Politicians from a particular area have an incentive to make that area look as populous as possible in order to get more power/money out of the national government. This is why local governments in the U.S. have been going hard on getting their citizens to participate in the decennial census. We just have to hope that countries have set up a system for counting the population that is impartial/monitored enough to prevent wild exaggerations. Even a close estimate will do. It's not like there could be 65 million people just unaccounted for in a small city in the Congo, smiley face. You get a big square, then throw it down at a random location and count all the humans inside, then extrapolate that for the rest of the world. At least that's how we did it in science for sand fleas. Because we don't rely on other nations' intelligence, we gather our own. That's what intelligence agencies are for. I remember in grade school in Model UN we would always use the CIA fact book for stats on countries, especially population.